switch to share. Good. We should be ready. So, no, wait a minute. I knew I'd make a mistake. I have to, what we were just talking about before, share for optimize. There we go. There we go. Now, these final parashot of Devarim, or Deuteronomy, are full of passages from Moses' final address to the people that inspire art. This is Nitzavim by Nira Or, a collaboration between Los Angeles-based artist Lizzie Sivitz and Rabbi Haley Goldstein, image by Lizzie, commentary by Rabbi Haley, who writes, in Nitzavim, Moshe tells the Israelite people, surely this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens, neither is it beyond the sea. No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to observe it. Words, she says, that are particularly appropriate as we approach the high holy days. During these days of awe, Rabbi Goldstein writes, we're going on a journey, but perhaps it's not in the heavens, but into our own breath and our own heart. From her Ancient Illuminations series of Parsha paintings, Alabama artist and educator Star Weems depicts a broken ladder against a rainbow backdrop, suggesting Moses' admonition against looking for answers in the heavens. A teacher who frequently takes her students on field trips into the northern Alabama woods, Star makes the ladder from tree branches. Here's Nitzavim from another of our regular favorites, Darius Gilmont. Born in London, Darius has lived in Israel since 1993, when, after a career in architecture, he returned full-time to illustration and then began painting and sculpting. A formative period spent in the Sinai desert and his own spiritual search led him to produce art around biblical subjects, and those continue to be his main artistic direction today. For Nitzavim, he shows not just the Israelites in the audience for Moses' final address, but all of us over the centuries, from every culture and every background, young and old. A reminder that Moshe was speaking not just to the people there at the time, but to future generations.
I see Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that stovepipe hat, I know, but he's got the Smith Brothers beard, so it's a little
That's
different.
right.
From the Women of the Book collection of 54 original pieces, each by a Jewish woman artist from around the world, Nitzavim is represented by California Bay Area artist and illustrator Cheslin Amato. She explains the image features female figures, a collage of Jewish women over time, stressing the ideals of closeness and nearness, qualities of love. The artist envisions an embrace, as with the heightened connection between lovers. The next parasha, Vayelech, introduces the Song of Moses, but Cheslin Amato's Nitzavim is the Song of the Shekhinah.
Nitzavim, we stand before you, Yah Adonai Elohim Shekhinah.
Alan, the sound's not very good on this.
Torah, teaching and learning. Kabbalah, receiving and transmitting. Shir, song and singing. Teshuvah, repentance and freeing. So that we may live and thrive. You show us how to live and die under the canopy, chuppah, of your blessing. Barach, Baruch. You are always close to us. The Shir, Shir Sekinah, the song of indwelling presence. Your love, Ahava, is always holding each of us, and we are your beloved, Yadid, Dodi. Sometimes we stray, and Nachnu Ta'ayim, and curses befall us, Ha'elelot, and seize us, and we are cursed, Rag, Parag, Marag, Mabud, as individuals, communities, as nations, as a whole globe, and we become broken and fallen, Shabbat, Nechtir, Nafal. Nitzavim, we stand before you, and we can be healed. Rafah, Rafuah. We can return to ourselves, recover our hearts, restore the seed, and seat at the center of our souls by listening, hearing, keeping. Shama, Shabbat, Shamar. Your word, devar, and blessing and abundance, berachah, the mitzvah, are bestowed upon us. You can meet us with your love, ha'ahava, because we are meeting you with our love, ha'ahava, and we are loving you all our hearts. Levacha b'chol.
From Women of the Book, Nitzavim by Cheslin Amato. The Haftarah that traditionally accompanies this parsha is from Isaiah, and it prompts the Nitzavim painting by Canadian artist Leah Crust in her collection of illuminations and exploration of Haftarah through history and art. She explains that this is an optimistic Haftarah, with Isaiah foretelling a restoration of Zion and Jerusalem with splendor and beauty. It's a positive outlook, also reflected in the Parsha, as the Israelites are told, "Love the Lord your God, keep his commandments, his laws and rules, that you may thrive and increase and be blessed in the land you are about to possess." Leah Crust says she based this image on an illuminated ketubah, wedding contract, from 18th century Italy, illustrating the description from Isaiah of a glorious crown in the hand of the Lord. And mentioning history, there is some art news. Previously, in some of these art talks, we've seen the exquisite wall frescoes from the Dura Europos synagogue, created almost 2,000 years ago in a town near the Syria-Iraq border, a town that went from Greek origins to a century of Roman rule and was under the Persian Empire at the time this fresco was painted, around 240 CE, but was filled with dirt just a decade later by the Roman garrison stationed in the town along the Euphrates to help fortify the city ahead of an invasion. It remained lost until its accidental discovery in 1920 by a group of British soldiers bivouacked in a ruined desert fortress overlooking the Euphrates. The western wall of the synagogue was covered with paintings depicting the story of Moses. Over the years of the civil war in Syria, historians worried that these oldest known synagogue paintings would be destroyed. But this week, a delegation of Jewish scholars and leaders, now allowed into Syria after the fall of the Assad regime, was taken to the National Museum in Damascus and shown the paintings not only survived, but have been carefully placed in a hall of the museum, recreating the original layout of the Dura Europos synagogue. A member of the delegation, Pittsburgh-based art historian Jill Joshowitz, says she spent almost a decade of her life researching and writing about these paintings and never thought that she would really have an opportunity in her lifetime as a Jewish scholar and researcher to see them, adding, "Nobody in my social network knew anything about the fate of these paintings over the course of the Syrian civil war." Expressing an optimistic view, and maybe optimism should be our theme, she tells the Israel Times, "I hope that it's going to inspire greater interest and accessibility of this incredible Jewish cultural artifact for both the people of Syria and really all the Jewish people." So that's the Dura Europa synagogue that lives on, and that's our art this week for Nitzavim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Late at a downtime later, I'll post that article from the Times of Israel. I just read it.
I thought it was
Yeah,
amazing. I read through it and it was amazing. The fact of the visit alone is amazing. But then that they were ushered in and saw this this work that was believed to have been lost, so
It's
carefully
amazing
preserved.
and especially instructive. I mean, you know, in the salad of all the things that seem to be assaulting our senses and our souls in the world that we're living in today, there's a reminder of that there's a universality to the concepts of these great orations from Moses. They're not separate and unique. Other great concepts are built upon them, not the least of which is our U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So, to say that Judaism and its concepts existed all over the world for various reasons, and there was a conscious effort to preserve whatever it is. I didn't even concentrate on what those images are, but there's a recognition that some things can't be discarded. Maybe we're not ready to understand them now, but they're not to be discarded because they need to be available for studying at a different time. I think that's really profound. And that actually is what gives me hope generally, is I think that when traditions look deep down into their own origins, there's a universality. There's not a separateness. And so you think Syria, Syria had one of the most lively, growing Jewish communities in that part of the world for generations.
And I thought it was interesting in the article that whole delegation was put together by a group of Syrian, here in America, by a group of Syrian or Jews with Syrian origins.
Yeah. Okay. Misha Berach? I will leave to others to say names out loud. Let's see. Marilyn is here. Okay. Let's start with our screen, people in our immediate community on our screen. So I'm going to mute myself and listen to others.
Bill Greenwell.
Stuart is sick, so please include him.
Marilyn Anderson, Klein Anderson, and Leah Baskaya. And my daughter Rivka, who's still dealing with her meniscus, torn meniscus.
And Sarah, for you too, for sure.
Thank you.
And continuing for our friend Clay, recovering from a terrible auto accident and facing another series of surgeries to try to repair the damage that was done, and a reminder that we've really got to be careful on the road. And it could happen to any of us.
Okay, and continuing from there, I guess I'll add a few. In our community, Jan, Mike, we said Sarah and Marilyn's name. In our greater, my personal Jewish community, Rabbi Laura Metzger, Michael Cohn, Ted Diamond, Carol. I'm sure there's more. This is just the one sitting on my heart right now. And in general, all those whose names do not come to mind at this moment.
Ready for me? I didn't know whether I should include myself or not. I'm trying not to be. 2 days ago, I just got up and had a pain in my lower, around my hip, my right hip. So I'm hoping that it's not something chronic.
So we say Misha Berach to you as well. And I realize that our human capacity to be present and be able to think of everybody all at once, I know for me, especially this time of year, it feels a little limited, but as I see faces, I am reminded. So we extend the Misha Berach like we think of a pebble thrown into the middle of a very still pond, that its ripples extend beyond.
So true. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Tenu, may the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Nishabeach Imotenu Makor HaBracha Tenu, as those in need of healing, with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Ruth Ellen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu
Lasso,
Lasok
b'divrei
b'divrei Torah.
Torah.
Like I said, I'm going to really try. This is so hard for me. I'm going to really try to keep myself muted as much as possible. So if someone sees someone's hand up, call on them. Alan, I have this kind of divided specifically, so I'll just let you know. The first reading is lines 9 through 14. And let's have, I don't know, Heather, start us off.
Had to find my unmute again. You are stationed here today, all of you, before the Lord your God, your heads, your tribes, your elders, and your overseers, every man in Israel. Your little ones, your wives, and your sojourner in the midst of the camps, from the hewer of the wood to the drawer of the water, for you to pass into the covenant of the Lord your God and into his oath that the Lord your God is a seal with you today, in order to raise you up for him today as a people, and he will be for you a God, as he spoke to you and he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And not with you alone do I seal this covenant and this oath, but with him who is here standing with us today before the Lord our God, and with him who is not here with us today.
Is anyone missing from that?
No. I'm surprised Ruth Ellen's not talking about how the Rabbi Sachs was talking about that, right? I read it too.
The women are missing. Sarah,
No,
Rachel.
they're not.
No.
No.
Well, in the list,
Not yet,
in
Heather.
line
Which one were
12,
you reading?
line 12 just says Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. It doesn't, but it does mention the little ones, your wives, in line 10.
So I'm just going to say, this is my commentary that I read now, and it is a women's commentary. And it's hard to use it as the only commentary because it only focuses on those places that are women focused. And so I won't belabor the point, but it acknowledges, as we all have to, the limitations of the imagination of the people who committed this to paper, living in their time. So in the same way that and I relate a lot of this to the Constitution, in the same way that we've had to clarify what the original words meant and how they weren't meant to exclude, that in that spirit, I read this. And so I find, especially in the Hebrew, because the all-inclusiveness of using plural in many places does not specify one or the other.
The default in Hebrew is male.
I think that the general view is that future generations are included, but the wording doesn't exclude the previous generations. Is it? I'm not sure how to directly translate it, but it's Po Imanu Hayom. So, and the translation I use says not with us here today. So it doesn't say who is only to come. I think it encompasses the entire existence.
So line 14 addresses both. It says those who are with us today and those who are not with us today.
Which include all past, present, future.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it does at least. Viva and I talked this morning about just having an extended discussion about the name of the parsha itself, Nitzavim, and what that actually means. We talked about what does it mean to be present here and standing up, and I asked her for, and I'll ask her to share with you the modern Hebrew meanings of the infinitive.
Well, there's two root words. The word nitzav comes from two specific root words. One is an actual person who is standing. It can be a guard, it can be a witness, but the implication is not just standing passively, but being present. So that's the first root, is from standing upright and being present. And the second one, this one for me is a little bit of a stretch. I would have liked to research it and say that I'm not wrong, but the word yatziv, stable, or stable or stabilizing, also is in part from the same root word. So there's implication that people are called to complete attention and to put aside everything else so that your entirety can be present for the task. And what's the task? It's the listening. And we'll get into that a little bit because that's more in Vayelech, this instruction to gather the entire congregation periodically, specifically every 7 years, to read the entirety of the Torah. So Nitzavim are humans who are upright and fully attentive. And that's my today's translation.
The word itself is probably the most powerful word that all spiritualities try and have. The be here now. You are here right now in the present, fully aware, fully attentive to everything that's around you. And it's the hardest state to be in, and yet the most rewarding as well.
I guess I will jump into the water, the deeper ends, about why I got drawn to the more esoteric, non-physical understanding of these things. Because even in Rabbi Sax's, the one I read, I don't know which one you're talking about, Heather, I read too, the one he says, why do you want to be a Jew? And he talks about having choice and how can you enter into a covenant if you're not really there? And he's bringing this whole thing up. How can it include the people who were not there? Everyone was there. And he didn't even focus on the ones who came before. He was saying he's obviously talking about future generations. Maybe a few people for some reason weren't present there even in real time, but he says, but that couldn't happen, because he talks about, he makes a distinction that all our nefeshes are there, our soul, but we're soul and body. Now, in these more esoteric terms, and maybe I think the Kabbalah gets into this, but I'm not a good enough student. The whole idea that we were created, that God separated the heavens and the earth, and that's the one that comes. We made this duality out of this unity, and we're all part of the same energy. So we all were there in some form, physical, and now we're there, but not in that same physical form. And so that it, in fact, can be all-encompassing. We could also add from the more modern scientific point of view that the genetic material of the generations before are having an influence, and they are existing in the generations that are there and will be in the future. Yeah, Woody, what do you think?
I think there's implicit in this is that not only are you there and need to be present, but that's with all your values. Because who are you other than a compilation of the values that you have learned and that you express in your life? And that's what it means to be all there. And if your values aren't included in all this, what are you?
But he was getting at, which we always get back to, the idea of free choice and what do you have a choice? Hashem made this covenant. You can't get away from it. And then he discusses in modern terms, even in the eras where either for survival or for economic advancement or whatever, that Jews try to assimilate, ultimately that distinction was always there. You couldn't run or hide from what that inheritance was, So, I mean, look, I had something that should be a great mitzvah that happened this week. My niece gave birth to a baby. Now I've been having issues emotionally with my niece, so it's been a kind of a mixed bag for me. But she not only decided because she's 37, to get pregnant before she even got married. The father is not Jewish and he's mulatto, so now I'm dealing with this new birth of a boy who is not going to have a bris, even though he has a Jewish mother. So what, is he Jewish? All these things are like coming to the forefront of my mind now. And as I've been struggling with what it means for me to be a Jew, particularly ever since my father died. So, I don't know. I'm just mentioning it all comes. This parsha is just adding to that whole malaise or effort to try to gain a better understanding. So anybody who can help chime in and help give me some more clarity today, I'm all ears.
Arnie Rabin, go ahead.
Hi, Lashana Tova, Tikva Sevu,
Shana
everybody.
Tova.
Yeah. So two things. I just noticed the similarity to the Mormons. If you all of a sudden become a Mormon, all your previous relatives are all Mormons also. So they kind of embrace that whole philosophy also, I guess, which I find interesting. The other thing to Ruth, I just want to say that about your dilemma, I've had similar issues in my life, and all I could say is the underlying rule that I follow is just put out the love, share your knowledge, and don't do it judgmentally, and maybe you'll get a result that's unexpected, like the embracing of your values. So
Marilyn? Go ahead, Marilyn, unmute.
Thank you. I was going to comment to Ruth. So I was thinking pretty much along the lines that Arnie just shared. I mean, even when they're your children, you can love them. And it's basically all you can do is love them and then live your life with the best, to set the best example that you can for that. And really, you can't even give them too much advice, especially if they don't ask, because it's not going to be welcome. And if you volunteer stuff on a bris, I mean, good luck with that. You can't do it with your own kids unless they ask. I'm just saying, don't get upset about it because it's not even in your purview. So nobody will hold you responsible for that because it's not on your plate, basically, is the way it looks to me. I have 3 kids and none of them will take too much volunteer, information unless they're desperate about something. you know, they ask if they want to know, and Arnie's agreeing. It's just the way it is. So enjoy the new baby. It's a blessing.
Yes, thank you. That's what I plan on doing. I guess it's the intellectual part of me trying to put my own immediate personal experience into what we're discussing in the Torah, because we are at an existential point. You know, there have all, in every generation, what is it in the Haggadah? In every generation, there have been those who come up against us. And here we're in a particularly trying time again. And I remember all these arguments with assimilation in America, and we all have it in our families. We know. And then on the other hand, I have one cousin, because his wife decided she was all in on Orthodoxy, then his children followed. So they're making up for the rest of the family, because they're, you know, they're rabbis and they're, you know, have a bunch of kids and whatever. So every time, you know, the announcement of our death is highly premature, uh, paraphrasing badly Mark Twain, you know, but apropos to this parsha and the legacy and the covenants that we are about to have fulfilled by crossing the Jordan, as I have always have to quote my sister Aviva here, that, you know, I totally agree. It's got to apply to us. And it's specifically saying that here, because if it's applying to every generation to come, like, in a way, there's quote unquote no such thing as time. You know, we were all there at Sinai and everybody's here now. And yet we crystallize into our individual personalities, souls, etc., and we have to navigate the world while we're here within that. And so to my question about assimilation and everything in this modern world is like, what does that mean for the you know, Am Yisrael in writ larger? You know what I mean? I'm not going to not love or anyway, yeah, that's kind of what I meant by that. But I appreciate everybody's reinforcing what I already know. I give them the love, and that's it, which I will.
I think it's more than giving them the love. So we are definitely in one of those unique periods in history right now where things are tough, no matter who you are. I mean, kind of across the world, right? It's not unique to us. It's not unique to Israel. So what the bigger picture is that we have strayed from something. What that something is, it's kind of what we're reading about. It's what I love about this Parashat Nitzavim. There's a completeness to it. If I had to tell the whole Torah on one foot, I would just read the book of Nitzavim and talk about it in that context. So what you're experiencing, Ruth Ellen, we're all experiencing in many ways. Your example is a particular niece who has a name and a picture and something going on in her life. But I think we have a cautionary tale to tell, that what we teach our children, we teach by living it. If we teach it by saying it and not living it, open up the garbage can and throw it away. It's worthless. So live it. And may life be long for her, and may she come to an understanding that who she is and the desires she has in life and the importance she places on having a child come from a very deep tradition that's hers to own. And it's always available. It's always available. She's not excluded from it. There's nothing she has done by the choices she has made to exclude her. That's the point. She's one of the ones. We have the standing at Sinai and standing at Moab. That's why I asked, is anyone excluded? Nobody. But it's not for us as humans to tell our feelings about it. It's for us to live it as the example. She has done something that is so missing in our society. She has expressed an ability to hold on to hope by bringing someone into the world. Man, we need more of that. So she's giving us an example, and we can give her one in return. All right, so Arnie Rabin, I'm looking for the concept of what Mormons have done to Jews is very complex. So I'm going to actually post an article about it at some point, because it's too big a discussion. But it boils down to this, that in Mormon leadership, there was a concept of digging up souls, so to speak, and claiming them as Mormons. I'm going to say it the most basic way I know how to say, because I'm going to say words that are wrong and I'm going to say something incorrect. But that's the concept, that Mormons have claimed the souls of Jews as their own, basically. And it's a specific, I'll post the article I'm thinking of. I just
They
have to find it.
definitely focused on the Jews who were killed during the Holocaust.
Right.
Yeah, and I just got to say, I don't believe they have the power to do that. So it's just kind of ridiculous to me when someone says that. I mean, it's just totally insane that someone could think they could do that. That excludes any free will of those, souls that they had and what they were into. I mean, I don't know. They should jump on the soul train, I guess, and step out of it, because it's just political rather than rational.
I tell them, do the work. It's not that easy.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so who's got a lot of breath and can read? Because now we're going to read lines 15 through 28. So this, I'm dividing this into chapters. Go ahead. I'm actually going to call on David, and Ruth Ellen, I'll call on you in a little bit.
Okay. Well, you know that we dwelt in the land of Egypt, and that we passed through the midst of various other nations. And you have seen the detestable things and the fetishes of wood and stone, silver and gold that they keep. Should there be among you a man or a woman or a clan or a tribe whose heart turns away today from Adonai our God to go worship the gods of those nations? Should there be among you a root bearing fruit of hemlock and wormwood? And it shall be, when he hears the words of this oath and deems himself blessed in his heart, saying, it will be well with me, though I go in my heart's obduracy, in order to sweep away the moist with the parched. Adonai shall not want to forgive him, for then shall Adonai's wrath and his jealousy smolder against that man, and all the oath that is written in this book shall come down upon him, and Adonai shall wipe out his name from under the heavens. And Adonai shall divide him off for evil from all the tribes of Israel, according to all the oaths in the covenant written in this book of teaching. And a later generation will say, your children who will rise up after you, and the stranger who will come from a distant land, and will see the blows against this land and its ills with which Adonai afflicts it, brimstone and salt, all the land of burning. It cannot be sown, and it cannot flourish, and no grass will grow in it, like the overturning of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which Adonai overturned in his wrath and in his anger. And all these nations will say, for what has Adonai done this to this land? What is this great smoldering wrath? And they will say, for their having abandoned the covenant of Adonai, God of their fathers, which he sealed with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they went and worshipped other gods and bowed to them, gods that they did not know and that he did not apportion to them. And Adonai's wrath flared against that land to bring upon it all the curse written in this book. And Adonai tore them from upon their soil in wrath and in anger and in great fury, and flung them into another land as on this day. Things hidden are for Adonai our God, and things revealed for us and for our children forever, to do all the words of this teaching.
All the words of this teaching. No shortcuts. Well, I'm going to have to talk a little bit about the structure of this parasha. In this, the all-inclusiveness, the story, the very brief telling of the story, what God did for us, and what our responsibility is forevermore. It's a pretty simple formula, but the words, the repetition of words in here, there'll be some other phrases that we've seen in other places, but this idea of this whole thing It's not a picking and choosing. It is not what is being asked here. It's in every day, in every land, among every people. The covenant was signed freely, a covenant as an agreement. So when a people congregates for the purpose of hearing this whole teaching, whatever it may be, that's what's meant. There's no shortcut. There's no, you choose what fits the moment. Because it all fits the moment, because we were all there to sign the covenant. And as an example, in line 18, it's kind of confusing. We have to remember that Moses is speaking. This is the last of Moses's great summaries. The next chapter, which usually is read with this one, Vayelech, is also very specific. And then there's Ha'azinu, which is a poetry form that then brings us to the death of Moses. So in line 18, when hearing the words of these sanctions, and the sanctions are the consequences, right? There's a covenant and there's the consequences. When hearing the words of these sanctions, such a one may imagine a special immunity, thinking, I shall be safe though. I follow my own willful heart, to the utter ruin of moist and dry alike. Adonai will never forgive such individuals. Rather, Adonai's anger and passion will rage against them till every sanction recorded in this book comes down upon them. Adonai blots out their name from under the heaven. Where have we recently heard the term blot their memory, blot them from under heaven? This is Moses speaking to the Israelites. He's saying, you don't get to only choose the ones you believe today or the ones that are convenient for now, or only the ones that seem relevant right now. Because if we want to call it the wrath of God or ruination that we bring upon ourselves, it does not matter. The ruination will happen. Whether it feels godly from acts that can't happen to things that today are happening, whereas our parents could not imagine them happening. Heat so severe that people die without doing anything, without there being a war, right? These are things, do we say, well, here we are passive, we're doing everything the way we understand, right? But yet this is happening. No, it does not ever absolve us of the responsibility, of the greater responsibility. And I always have to add, whatever that might be. We got a lifetime to figure out. It's not like, well, you're doomed because you haven't figured out yet. You get the rest of time to figure it out.
What's more important, to figure it out or to be present?
Isn't that the same thing? The act of being present is the act of figuring it out.
The act of being present is the act of committing to continuing to figure it out.
Okay.
There is no, I think that's the point, and that's why these two parashot together are really important, because the act of being present, and let's not forget the act of periodically reading this whole Torah out loud to the congregation, to the kehillah. Right? There's that, that's in the network. It's only like 30 lines, the whole book of Vayelech, the whole chapter of Vayelech. But
Nitzavim.
No, Nitzavim is short, but often Nitzavim, Vayelech are
Right.
read together.
Yeah.
And they're both short. So it's kind of nice to say them together because they go together. Because why are we all standing here together in the presence of everyone to listen to? Are we doing it every day? No, because we wouldn't get anything done. I mean, that's one of the things about seeing what current strife in Israel with the Haredi society is. Somebody's doing everything else and these people just have to pray. There's a lot of strife over that. I won't go into the history of how this happened because I've done that before, and I don't want to be speaking so much, but the idea is that together, the doing it all, but the constant reminder, you can't, you move away from the source and it gets lost. So periodically, everyone gathers together and the entire covenant is read out loud. What is the entire covenant? Can we do shorthand? We've had lots of attempts at shorthand. The Noahide laws are a kind of a shorthand that works. You can expand it. You can take that and make that the whole thing. You can take any one of these concepts and expand them, but you still have to do it. You have to, in public, acknowledge together and listen together.
Seems like what's missing from the Noahide laws, they're all the laws, they do not include superconsciousness. And superconsciousness is this overriding thing which allows you to be that much more present.
Ruth Ellen? And then
I just keep coming back to that same old saw, that the conundrum that's brought in here again, and also speaks to something more broadly we always talk about, which is the communal versus the individual. And then that quote that you just said, and maybe it's kind of in old-fashioned language, and if any one of you might say, but I myself know that I am following the right path, is that not enough? Now, this always brings me around to, especially being a non-ultra-Orthodox Jew in the modern times. My rationalization is, I don't know exactly what is the divine word, because I'm seeing the 10th extrapolation into a fifth language, and we don't have a direct thread of everything from even the first time it was written down, let alone the first time it was said. But maybe that's just a rationalization. So every time you want to sit there and pick, well, if I do this, I'm still good and I'm following, And that's why ultimately it's kind of like this all or nothing thing, the way it's presented here, that says you shall follow everything. If you're not sure, you follow everything, you're covered, And most of the world is not that disciplined or that present for that every single second. So I'm just saying, that's just something that I struggle with all the time, because it seems very easy to rationalize. And sadly, then I can say, well, other people are misusing the words of the Bible in much more dangerous ways, I would say. But then there's my hubris. Where's my humility not to say that I know better? That's another thing that Rabbi Sachs brought up. The way Hashem describes it shows if we're in the image of Hashem, then the same traits have to be there. And so the oddness of saying that the omnipresent, omniscient creator of all can be humble seems like, again, another dichotomy that, another paradox that can't hold, but somehow it has to hold, So I guess I'm going a little around in circles, because this is a big conundrum for me.
Alan, and then after Alan, Arnie Rabin.
Well, I'm going to get a little picky-yoon, but the last line of what Arnie just read, the end of this section of reading, line 28, I'm baffled by it. I don't really understand the construction there of what it's saying, especially because it doesn't seem to follow the lines before it, or at least it doesn't. I'm not sure how to interpret that, and I realize I look at some of the commentaries, and so people have interpreted it, but the way it's written, it's not clear to me what it's talking about.
So if Sherry was here, she would explain to us something about, and the word ulevavenu has a whole bunch of dots on top, and the dots look like a trope marking, but you'd never have that many. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over the word ulevavenu, and 3 over lanu. I wonder if yeah, right there. Okay, so I'm going to read to you out of my commentary what this says. While this one enigmatic verse, thank you for picking that up, Alan. This is specifically verse 28. While this one enigmatic verse has accrued various interpretations over time, its possible plain meaning derives from context. The continuing opposition between the concealed and the overt in the parasha. One reading is that these are Moses's concluding words of assurance to the people. Concealed acts refer to sins committed by the individual in secret. Thus only God can reveal and judge. Whereas overt acts refer to public sins of a group or of the whole collective, which human judges must punish according to the teaching. The teaching, HaTorah Hazot, this Torah. Okay, hence the threat of destruction stands as a punishment only if the people neglect their communal responsibility to punish individual sinners in order to save the innocent majority, according to Rashi and Nachmanides, which is Ramban Nachmanides. Okay, so there you go. Others have picked up on the oddity of this particular line. And does that help?
It does, but I don't. The dot you mentioned the dots, and one of the things in altar, it says it's have a row of dots above them. There's the two Hebrew words which mean for us and for our children, a device often used by ancient scribes to indicate erasure. So was something erased, and a substitute put in there? It's a very it didn't help, at least.
Let me see what Hertz says about it, and then I've got one more commentary I can look at. Anyhow, somebody else, I think Arnie Rabin had your hand up meanwhile while I look this up.
Yeah, I remember this Jewish phrase, "Gute Neshama," which I think means a good name. And to me, this always connoted that within the community, people acknowledge that you're doing right, and that we rely on our community for a lot of our guidance as far as, the folkways and mores and guidance and our spiritual directions. So, to me, it's important to try to live a good life, and within the constructs of what's acceptable. And, that's kind of how I rate my place, is, so to speak.
I think the literal translation is good soul.
Yes,
It means soul? Okay, thank you.
Neshama is soul.
Thank you for correcting me.
Okay, so Joel has his hand up, and I'm still looking up something about line 28. Go ahead, Joel. You have to unmute, Joel.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
There it is. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Just kind of jumping in the middle, so I'm not sure what was covered. But just on this last topic, just a brief thought, and maybe it's been mentioned before, but when we hold all the four species together on Sukkot and sort of striving to be like an etrog, the idea being that the etrog has a smell and a taste, which represents scholarship and good deeds, and the lulav has the dates of the lulav have taste but no smell, so that represents a person who has a lot of scholarship but is not maybe necessarily a good neshama, or doesn't do good mitzvot. And the hadas, the myrtle, with the smell but without the taste, represents this type of good neshama person who has a sweetheart and wants to be a good mensch. And then the willow, without the smell and without the taste. And we all have all four parts of those to ourselves. So with the unity of Rosh Hashanah and the unity of Sukkot that's coming, it's like a time of great unity. And, things actually do like fall apart into categories. And now is the time of bringing all those parts together, to all sit in the sukkah as one. And I just love that ritual and custom that's been passed down for thousands of years, because people don't have to over-identify with one or the other. We're all of them.
I think that falls into that category of inclusiveness is available. We have to find it. And that's what you missed is that in the first opening lines of this parasha, we wanted to make sure that everyone was included. So thank you for that. And David?
Just back to that prepositional phrase in 28, Lanu Vanenu. I was assuming, and this I could be completely wrong, but I was assuming that might have been an added phrase later. And so it was added into the text as opposed to being marked for erasure from the text. But that was just my assumption.
So there's an innate inclusiveness to saying Lanu Ulevanenu, because that's kind of, there's an all-inclusiveness just in those two words. But what it says here in the Hertz, specifically about that line, it says, this verse is one of the 15 passages of the Bible in which words Lanu Ulevanenu are dotted. The most probable explanation of these dots is that they were intended to call attention to important homiletical teachings in connection with the words thus dotted. Yeah, and I'm actually wondering, I have to look this up, if when it's chanted, something is chanted there differently because there's trot beneath it. I'm curious, I actually honestly never noticed it before. As many years as we've been doing it, I never noticed all those dots.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think, Alan, this falls into the category of the various levels with which we study Torah. And this one would be more in the nistar, in the hidden or the esoteric.
I wonder if there's a connection to the majuscule lamed in the line before, which is also not completely explained.
Yeah. Yeah, majuscules are, that's what I said, it'd be wonderful to have Sherry. She's studied all the majuscules and has at her fingertips the explanations to them. But I don't.
I skimmed through Safari. I found one commentary that's in English by it's Cooney, and I don't know where that is, but it says it all has to do with this notion of the public sins versus the private sins. I'm jumping ahead and said, dealing with deliberate sins committed in full view of the public must be dealt with by the judiciary, by both you and your children, as otherwise such phenomena cannot be eradicated from your midst. And then it goes on. Oh, wait, where does this? Oh, I mean, okay. Oh, darn it. Lost. I thought there were two things about the dots. So then it goes, oh, the publicly committed sins are also the responsibility of us and our children. And so in order that you should not say that this approach applies forever under all circumstances, the words have been that denote publicly committed sins are dotted to show that scribes have added that on later. That's what the dots are for. So I think the words are there, but the dots are there. And it says, this is deliberate in order to avoid giving the impression that we are telling Hashem how to administer his laws. This is also the reason why the dots, which we would have expected over the other words, La El Elukonu, wait a minute, I can't do it without vowels, where they would have made more sense, appear instead over the words Lanu, Lanu. Okay, sorry. All right. Again, it's editorial commentary, I guess, after the facts.
I found in my commentary an explanation for the majuscule. Is anyone interested in me reading it?
Yes.
Okay. So in context, this is where it appears. Adonai uprooted them from their soil in anger, fury, and great wrath, and cast them, and cast them into another land, as is still the case. So, and cast them, Torah scribes write this verb with an enlarged letter lamed in the middle, while later interpreters have sought to derive meaning from this practice. The reason for this custom is unknown. A midrashic explanation is that the large lamed designates the beginning of a new word, which leads one to read these letters with a different punctuation. vayashlichem or veyesh lachem. Veyesh lachem, two words meaning, but you will have God in another land.
Huh?
So being cast away versus but you will have God in another land.
Interesting.
This midrashic reading provides a significant ideological comment for those in exile, reassuring them of God's presence among the people in a foreign land. I like that.
I do too. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we see even in our Torah, words are run into each other. It's not necessarily a space between words.
Yeah.
That just lit up the whole Big Island, and definitely out here in Leilani, I felt the Kedusha from this. I felt connected and not so alone.
Because I'm in a rush to get to the end of the parasha, because everything we just read is available for further discussion, I want lines 1 through 30, 1 through, let's go all the way 1 through 10. I divided it 1 through 5, but let's do 1 through 10. And Ruth Ellen, if you'd like to.
Okay. And it shall be when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, that your heart shall turn back among all the nations to which Hashem your God will make you to stray. And you shall turn back to the Lord your God and heed his voice as all that I charge you today, you and your children with all your heart and with all your being. And Hashem your God will turn back your former state and have mercy upon you, and he shall turn back and gather you in from all the peoples to which Hashem your God has scattered you. Should your strayed one be at the edge of the heavens, from there shall the Lord your God gather you in, and from there shall he take you. And the Lord your God shall bring you to the land that your fathers took hold of, and you shall take hold of it, and he shall do well with you and make you more multitudinous than your fathers. And the Lord your God shall circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your being for your life's sake. And the Lord your God shall set all these imprecations upon your enemies and your foes who pursued you. And you shall turn back and heed the Lord's voice, and you shall do all his commands, which I charge you today. And the Lord your God shall give you an extra measure for the good in all your handiwork, in the fruit of your womb, and in the fruit of your beasts, and in the fruit of your soil. For the Lord shall turn back to exult over you for good, as he exulted over your fathers. When you heed the voice of the Lord your God, to keep his commandments and his statutes written in this book of teaching, when you turn back to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your being.
Thank you. We got to stop here because the next reading is it changes subject. Okay, any words jump out here? Any concepts jump out here?
Isn't it sort of a
forgiveness.
contrast to the casting out? It's not the cat. No, not much muted. We just were talking about the whole nature of casting out, and yet here there's no place that it can't reach. So there's no such thing as casting out if everything is reachable.
Well, it said to me, nothing, it's in any casting out is not necessarily permanent. There is always redemption available.
You got it exactly. It's not necessarily permanent.
Which is the most hopeful part we can hope for. We think that we're not following everything in the teachings.
No, and the teachings, the fallback of the teachings are, if you assume that the teachings are right and good and leave you upstanding, Nitzavim, then everything will be going to be okay. Just believe in that. It's as good a thing to believe in as anything. If you can't start by believing in your own values that make you an upright and upstanding citizen, what is there?
Marilyn?
Yeah, so you're cast out like to a different place, but God's not casting us away from him. from himself. It's a geographic situation, but we're not being thrown away. He's not throwing us away. And so in that, there's always the hope that we can improve this. Our will to do better and will be blessed by the fact that we will do better, and that there's hope. There's always hope, and we're not being thrown away. That's the way I read it.
We're going to go with Matan, Matan, and then Sarah, and then Arnie. Raven. Go ahead, Matan.
I would think that the Zionists would have been very enthusiastic about verses 3 through 5. And I'm wondering how the Haredim would deal with that, because at least Siddiqar say that there's no validity in having a Jewish state, don't they?
Some, only some.
Right, only some, the Neturei Karta.
Like not a bad, just some. It's actually a small amount compared to the majority of Orthodoxy.
Isn't it temporary until after,
Well,
Messiah?
it's so. Can I go?
Yes, please.
So in verse 3, basically it says that God will bring you back from your captivity and he will return, which implies that God is also in exile and that he will bring Jews back from captivity and he will return with them. So the whole question of Zionism is, some believe that it is God who will return from exile with the and bring the Jewish people back, as opposed to a political movement, which they say is present day Zionism.
Right. So it's a complaint against assuming the mantle of God, and that these things happen in a fashion that's outside of the will and ability of humans.
Their take is that the formation of an Israel should have been from the hand of God, versus that man created this. And yet, by studying this particular parsha, you sort of get, well, God's basically telling you, yes, you can do whatever you want as long as you do it in a value-based, upstanding way, which is a problem we have now in Israel and here as well.
I think we had Arnie.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Aviva, for the translation on this of the word bris. Does it mean circumcision or does it mean covenant?
So actually, I was hoping this would be a subject. Let's open this one as a subject of conversation. In the other ways it's been used, it's circumcision of the heart. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a concept that's not new. We've seen it a couple of other times before. Generally, it's understood to mean that the heart is a very tight organ. It's a very strong muscle. And occasionally, medically, there is a need to make space for something, and a surgical procedure can be done that would be what has been interpreted to mean the circumcision of the heart, which means an opening to allow the heart to expand. That's kind of been the classic understanding that I've understood about the circumcision of the heart. So let's open that up for discussion. That's a very interesting concept.
Well, what does the word bris actually mean, literally?
Circumcision. But it specifically is it's a covenantal agreement in a physical form.
I question. I always, and maybe I'm mistaken, but I always thought brit itself meant just covenant, but brit milah is what's alluded to with circumcision. Is that
Right.
wrong?
So a brit is a covenant, but a brit milah is the symbol of the agreement to the covenant. So it's a physical act that says, with this act, I accept the covenant. And that's why it's called the brit
This is
milah.
the physical manifestation. And that's the tough part about this is what does it mean actually to circumcise your heart? Because we're not doing a physical opening up the heart. It's instead, it's the symbolism. What does the heart represent?
Well, if you substitute covenant for circumcision in that parsha phrase, it kind of makes more sense. Then you don't have to, sit here debating. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Craig?
Yeah, I looked it up.
Reminding me when I was, yeah. Oh, what did you find?
We're going to call on Craig and then back to Joel.
I looked it up because that word circumcision struck me as well. And it seems to reference cutting away a part of your heart so that you feel more, not unlike the circumcision we're all aware of. But it just kind of made that when it was written, we all know that love, generally speaking, biologically, it's in your head, right? We talk about a romantic heart, which I thought was kind of a Western construct, but here it is back in the Torah, where apparently they too talked about a heart, you got to have heart, and that your heart controls your love life and your emotions, when we know that really it pumps blood and it's your brain that does it. So I would have thought that God would have been more precise, or maybe this is where the whole concept of, a heart being a pumping station and the source of love and powerful emotions.
Well, I think circumcision of the heart means surrendering, sinfulness and pridefulness, and for a deeper change, for a change in one's character. Let's put it that way. Circumcising the heart, and your attitude towards God, perhaps even. So it's. I think it implies a change in character, a change towards loving God. And then there's also the New Testament circumcision of heart, which would mean accepting Jesus as your Savior and putting the law away. So it's in both the old and the new, and I think it has basically the same meaning, but also two different things.
I just
Alan,
want to go
and
back
then
to the original again, which is,
sorry. Go ahead, Joel.
I mean, maybe I'm just confused, but I did just do Google Translate. Of course, that's not the end all be all, but covenant translates to Brit and circumcision translates to Milah. So I'm still going back to the original, which is, I think here it is just talking about it like a covenant, an emotional covenant, a spiritual covenant. And then I also, just because of my early education, I remember being like 8 or 9 years old in Hebrew school in Pittsburgh in the 70s. And we were introduced to this term covenant. And it was mostly talking about like a promise and the bonding, like our word, what was it Michelle Obama said? Our word is our bond kind of thing. So I'm just still going back to the original etymological confusion of the translation.
So we're doing the very traditional thing, which is we are looking at where the words appeared before and what context and what they mean now in this context. So yes, the word mal, milah, comes from the word word. And the word brit is the word for covenant. And the word brit milah, in the words brit milah together, have always meant circumcision. So if you start to separate them, you can't really separate them, because how they've appeared in the different combinations that bring us to this one are not separable. They have been there to remind us that we all made an agreement. All of us were there, even the unborn, and we made an agreement. That and yeah, but by the way, Brit Milah comes long before Sinai. Brit Milah, the first mention is with Abraham.
Right.
And so there, you know, it's too long for me to go into because I don't want to speak so much, but how the words appear and in what combinations lead us to the understanding that Milah is the word, Brit is the covenant, and Brit Milah are ways of showing that we accept, we take the word and make it our own. We take the word that came to us, and it is for us to live it. And this will come up in the next few lines we're reading. So I'm going to call on Alan, and then I think somebody else had their hand up after Alan.
Ruth Ellen did too.
Okay, Alan, then Ruth Ellen.
Well, I maybe I'm looking at things too simplistically, but one interpretation that I'm picking up on is that just like the Brit Milah circumcision, this idea of the circumcision of the heart, it's an irrevocable act. Plastic surgery notwithstanding, you can't go back on it. It's once you've taken it, you are resolved to maintain that, and I think that maybe that's the strength of the term comes from this irrevocable nature of the choice.
And because you were there to accept the covenant, even if you were not yet born.
Right.
So you can't take it back. Yes, thank you, Alan. Ruth Ellen and then Joel.
I will only say, Craig, if you remember what you wanted to say, I know you kind of had your hand up and Aviva missed it. We're supposed to be after. Or did it pass already?
I don't know. We'll get to everybody.
Okay. Oh, darn it. I keep hitting the wrong. Okay. I just started thinking about the etymology of using the derived Greek circumcision. I looked that up, how we got from Brit to circumcision, and it hit me. It's a symbolic thing because it's to cut around, not to cut off, which we almost see, to cut around, and that's create. Like I'm thinking of like when I sew. You put little darts in something, like when you're trying to make a circle and make it fit, it expands. It's a analytical geometry thing. And so I thought of it more symbolically, that again, it's the widening, the opening up, and it goes back to the whole idea of coming from the narrow place into an opening. And so you do that with your heart, you're ready to accept the covenant. You know, you're ready to accept the contract that you're making with Hashem. So, yeah, I don't think we should get too literal on that. Although now I am curious about these etymologies, because there again, we're so used to using that term. It's not derived from the Hebrew text. It's what's come down through Greek and Latin. So now I'm curious where that came from. Okay.
Okay, Joel.
Let's see. So just it crossed my mind a talk that Reb Zalman Schachter gave many years ago, and I guess it was in the 90s. Mothering Magazine did the whole cover of like Brit is a form of abuse, child abuse. And I remember I actually went in search of my moil, and I also was sent a letter to Reb Zalman. And so I just hadn't had a chance to look at this too much, but the Brit Shalom movement, where he was talking about, some of the couples didn't want to do Brit Milah, so they would do a Brit Shalom and bring the knife, close, but then quote the passage of Abraham turning away from the Akedah of Yitzchak and almost doing the Brit Milah, but then invoking a new prayer, Brit Shalom. And I see there's a lot of stuff online. So it's reawakening my desire to do research into what that, Reb Zalman and what that movement was about. And I can just say that when I went to the Moyle in Pittsburgh, who had done like 30,000, and I showed up there, I was 28 years old. I was all enraged because I had been doing all this, body work and rolfing. And and he said, come in. Would you like some honey cake and some coffee? And then he went up to his office and he had all the file cabinets of all 30,000. By the time I left his house, I was like, I had tears in my eyes. So I don't know why I'm talking about that, but just a little personal journey on this. But the Brit Shalom, Brit Milah, still is out there. And there are many couples, I guess, that are wanting to still do that. And I remember Reb Zalman, Alav Shalom, said, he thought it would become more commonplace, and he said he didn't want to be around for when that would take place in the Jewish world.
Interesting.
That
Arnie Raven?
Yeah, we're not the first generation that dealt with this. I was reading in history during the Greek occupation of the Holy Land way back in the day. A lot of the Jews started going to gymnasium and started admiring the whole Greek philosophy of physical beauty and started stretching their skin with weights to make it simulate it never having been circumcised.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, true.
I
Well,
wanted
that's
to,
my image for the day.
Arnie, I wanted to get
If I
back
could
to,
carry the weight, you know?
actually, now I feel like I'm changing the subject. So if someone wants to say anything about the subject, I'm going to wait. Go ahead, Yehuda.
When we were listening to Rabbi Sachs this morning, he mentions the Brit is actually referenced not in the actual circumcision only, but rather there is a circumcision of the ear and a circumcision of the eye and a circumcision, in this case, of the heart. And in each particular case, it requires an opening up and a making space for. And I thought I'd just throw that in because we didn't bring it up yet.
Okay,
Is
I'm
that
not
why
changing.
we all get nose jobs?
Never had one.
Neither. I mean, they moved it to the right, but that's about it.
That could only be to open the nostrils more, Arnie. That would be the only thing that would fit in with the opening.
Okay, Aviva, go for it.
No, I just want to go back to what Arnie wrote in the chat, which he said, the heart is in the Shema. Well, thank you very much. That's the point of what we're reading here. So we're bringing things together. There are some phrases here that we have seen before. In the Shema, the two concepts that come to mind just in the lines that we just read is the idea of loving God with your entire heart and your entire soul and your entire everythingness. So we have a mirror of these words, and what does that mean? But the word that I've been seeing more and more toward the end of Nitzavim with Moses's great speech, toward the end of Deuteronomy with Moses's great speeches, is the word lema'an, which also brings to a close the part that we normally read in synagogue as part of the Shema, part of the service. Lema'an. Lema'an is the big so that. It's the why of it all. Why? So that your future progeny may, be able to manifest itself in a land, so that whatever it is, there's a so that concept, lema'an, and that also is in this in here. So listen now, with all that in mind and what we were discussing, then your God Adonai will open up your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love your God Adonai with all your heart and soul, in order that you may live. Lema'an. Okay, so it's not, the randomness seems to be collected here. We have such the Hebrew is so poetic toward the end of Deuteronomy here. What we were talking about before, this concept of, Adonai, the creator of heaven and earth, nothing is excluded. And the wording of creation, there's nothing excluded. And this idea that no matter how far you strayed, God knows where you are. You can be and the words were there, at the ends of the earth. You have been relegated to the ends of the earth. And from there, God will come and bring you back in. There's a completeness, but the bringing all these concepts that we've wondered about, like, what could this mean? What could this mean? And Moses is putting it into words, not nearly as beautifully as the next lines we're going to read, but this is where we are now. Yep, Reba is here. Shabbat shalom, Reba, and welcome. Okay, who wants to read? We're going to read.
I can read.
All right, we're actually only going to read about 10 lines. I'll stop you.
Okay.
Okay.
For this command which I charge you today is not too wondrous for you, nor is it distant. It is not in the heavens to say, who will go up for us to the heavens and take it for us and let us hear it, that we may do it. And it is not beyond the sea to say, who will cross over for us beyond the sea and take it for us and let us hear it, that we may do it. But the word is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it.
All right, that's actually where we're going to stop. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And this
Because-
line is exactly why we've been studying Torah for the last 6 years together. Thank you.
Can you expand on that thought?
Well, we're expanding our own ability to think about the complexities of life, and as reflected in the writing.
And why do you not need to go climb up the highest mountains or look across the sea?
Because it's here with us.
And is that good enough?
Mhm.
It certainly is. Because
No, wait a minute.
the
what's the
microcosm and the microcosm and the macrocosm of everything is all around us always.
But the last word that Marilyn just read. Thank you, Alan.
But the word is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it.
To do it.
Mhm.
Okay, Arnie posted something. I'm opening to look at it later. Oh, thank you. You did, I think you posted the one I was looking, no, you posted something else, but thank you. I think that's good enough. I'm gonna be too distracted if I look for a link to attach right now.
Don't you think it means that it's not that difficult also to understand, that you don't need to necessarily seek out the highest scholars in the world and the highest rabbis in the world, that it's somehow understandable to you? The Torah is there. You don't have to cross the ocean to go figure it out.
As if Moses is saying, look, it's really not that hard.
It's
That's what he's saying.
accessible, is the word I get. You know, it's accessible, like
Yeah.
what they use for the Americans with Disabilities Act. It has to be accessible.
And understandable.
Isn't that the same?
Well, it could be accessible.
It's theirs for the having.
It's there, but also
Here.
it's there, meaning it's accessible, it's within you, but also simple enough to understand.
Uh-huh.
And you can't use it as an excuse because it's so far away. Here we are.
Alan, and then Ruth Ellen after Alan.
If that's the case, why do we have, if you look at the Chumash, and sometimes you show us the pages, and we'll see more than half of each page is taken up with the explanations of what we've just read. And so if everything is so simple and easy to understand, why do we need all these commentaries?
Aha. Okay, we are at the end of the book right now. So we needed the commentaries to get there. But the word, and I'm definitely going to call on Vic to lead us out at the last few lines here, because that word re'eh comes up next, right? So Moses is still in the process, but it's almost like that. He knows his mortality is near, and things are clear to him, and he has found the way to make it clear to the people. That's the beauty that comes through in these last rushed lines of Deuteronomy. It's like, oh, I've been trying to refine it for so long, and now here, I think, see if this works. Is this simple enough? Do you like this formulation? That's kind of what I hear when I hear the Hebrew. Okay, we have Matan Arnie. No, we have Matan Arnie, and then Joel.
Understanding.
Okay. Sorry,
understanding is kind of a complicated thing. There are different levels of understanding. In the Pardesh, And the surface level, the literal level is not too difficult, but the other ones get progressively more difficult and require time and effort.
Yep.
Thought, shot, and Remes.
Right. So there's no promise of like sitting on your, on your little plot of land and just enjoying all of it. That has never been promised to anyone. There is real work involved. So Ruth Ellen, I missed that you had your hand up, so I'm going to call on Joel, then Ruth Ellen, and then somebody else. I think Craig had his hand up. So go ahead, Joel.
Again, I'm finding myself wanting to do deeper research on this, but in my journey through Chabad, I learned that they would say that the entire Tanya, written by Shneur Zalman of Liadi a few hundred years ago, was based on this verse. That it's not far away on a mountain to go in pursuit of. It's right here on our next breath to do mitzvot. So I do see it's in chapter 17 of the Tanya, and it looks like a beautiful chapter. So I'm gonna, after the class, re-study that, and I'm happy that that connection was made by many people, and that Shneur Zalman based an entire sefer off of that line. So for me, it's really an encouragement to take that next breath and try to see what's the next good deed, that I can do, even if it's something small. I see a lot of people over here in this part of the island, who it's all about self-healing and not so much about going in Bikur Cholim or tzedakah, and those things really make us better people and better Jews.
Ruth Ellen, then Craig.
Well, first of all, with regard to it being accessible, it's not just saying it's not enough to be accessible. You have to follow through and do it. A lot of things are accessible. So that was number one. Number two, what came to me is this is the ultimate example of, how can this be? How can we know it all already? Because, and this is bringing it back full circle, we're at the end of the Torah, the beginning. We were created in the image and likeness of Hashem. Therefore, that sentience, that internal ballast or whatever, all the source of it is all right there in us from the very beginning.
Yes.
And so we don't really need any, when people talk about there's a lot of talk now, are people basically good? I mean, do they have a moral compass? We're kind of saying, and some people think ultimately they do internally, but then, I question myself again, it's not really that complicated. We make it complicated because we forget the source and we get wrapped up in all this mishigas that is living in this world. And so we have fear of the unknown, we have fear of wants, all the things that lead to the sins that will lead to the curses come from our own fear for our own survival. And if we would just simply remember that we're all part of the same source that came from everyone. And if we deal humbly, walk humbly with Hashem and treat our fellow life on earth accordingly, we're going to have all these gifts. We make it hard on ourselves. And again, that also brings back in the whole idea of the attentiveness and why you have to be in the present, because otherwise it's just too easy to be distracted by all this stuff that in the end really doesn't matter. Thank you.
I was going to call on Craig. Yeah, Craig, you had your hand up earlier. I'm sorry, couldn't get to you.
Oh, I'm okay. Thanks.
Okay. There's so much more good discussion, but I was wondering, Vic, if you could carry us out with the last few lines. Just in plain reading, don't chant them or anything.
See, I have set before you today life and good and death and evil, that I charge you today to love the Lord your God, to go his ways and to keep his commands and his statutes and his laws, You shall live and multiply, and the Lord your God shall bless you in the land into which you are coming to take hold of it. And if your heart turns away and you do not listen, and you go astray and bow to other gods and worship them, I tell you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not long endure on the soil to which you are about to cross the Jordan to come there to take hold of it. I call to witness for you today the heavens and the earth, life and death. I set before you the blessing and the curse, and you shall choose life, that you may live, and you and your seed, to love the Lord your God, to hear his voice, cling to him, for he is your life, and the length of days to dwell on the soil which the Lord your God swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them.
Thank you. Those are the last lines that Vic and I are going to chant on Yom Kippur.
Right?
Yeah. All right. So I don't know, Vic, do you have anything you want to say about these lines?
I think a lot has been said. Now it's to do.
Thank you. Yes, a lot has been said. Now is to do.
Would you do me a favor and read that last line again, please? It just cut out. I didn't hear it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, where should we start? Did you hear the, okay, sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
I tell you today that you shall surely perish. Avod tovedun, you shall surely perish. You shall not long endure on this soil to which you are about to cross the Jordan to come there to take hold of it. I call to witness for you today the heavens and the earth, life and death I set before you, and blessing and curse. And you shall choose life, lima'an, so that you may live, you and your seed, to love the Lord your God, to heed his voice, and to cling to him, for he is your life and your length of days to dwell in the soil which the Lord your God swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joel has his hand up. Go ahead, Joel. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Yes, before the class ends, I do want to reference it. It's a beautiful Haftorah today also, if anyone wants to keep studying with me after. I'd be happy to stay on to do the Haftorah.
Nice offer. Thank you. I want to point to the very last line just because that's where my finger is on here. It does not say, and I think I learned this from reading the Sarah Horowitz book, for thereby you shall have life and shall long endure upon the soil that Adonai swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Not just listing them in a row. And I loved her explanation that says, because each of them had their own relationship with the divine, as do you. So there is no one way to do all these mitzvot and live all this Torah. There is no one way. It is up to you to understand what it means. But there are a few guidelines. Okay, so there are a few things that say, is this going to hurt someone else? Is this going to accrue glory to me personally? Is this going to make anyone turn away? Like there's a checklist that says, if you can't avoid these things by your actions, try again, go deeper into your heart. Because the real danger with understanding these words in a different way can be that we give the ability to we give the ability for us to understand to someone else. We let someone else tell us what to understand. And that's why I think these last few words here, starting with Lo b'shamayim hi, it's in your heart. It's not here, let me open up my brain, let someone else fill it, or take my brain, condition it and put it back. It's not one of the available options. And I see, you know, I've said that you can tell me any ill of the world and I'll boil it down to social media. Boy, do I mean it. I see these words, avod tovedun, surely you will perish. It's not, you may perish, might not work out for you. Surely you will perish. I don't know. It's very strong for me. Arnie Rabin.
Yeah. Does anyone else see that current events kind of make us want to take positive action, as this parsha suggests? The the obvious media stuff that's been going on, curtailing free speech, curtailing rights and human rights and basic human decency, kind of fires stuff up in me, and I hope that, each of you feels the same way. But we do have a responsibility to stand out, and it could be scary because we don't like to stand out. We could get attacked. We could get shot, as a matter of fact. But yet we still have to do it. It is our responsibility.
Yehuda?
Viva had this idea, and this morning I was sort of thinking along your lines, where just the idea expanded. We attended a town hall that Brian Schatz gave up in Waimea, and he gave this example of people on the Waianae coast organizing kiosks in the local supermarkets to help people fill out SNAP forms so that they don't lose SNAP benefits. And Viva's thought was, well, we should be doing that here, but let's do it with Medicare and Medicaid to help people fill out forms so they don't lose them. Because the predication has been that they'll lose them because they don't fill out the forms right, not because they're withdrawing it, as much as you don't get it if you don't fill the forms out. And this morning I just thought out and say, why not just be an all-purpose help to the greater community to help them fill out government forms? Government forms are one of the ways that barriers are created to prevent people from getting earned services. And that's something that we can do. And I thought about that this morning. So yes, it came to mind for me.
Good thought.
But I think it's worth addressing, Arnie. We know that's why we're here, and we know that that's why we have to study Torah. That is our legacy for us to interpret. We've got our entire lives, but if we don't see a reflection of the world that we live in and what we're reading, I do think we're doing something wrong. That's my personal opinion. However, the difference on Shabbat, some groups don't do Torah study on Shabbat. They do it on a different day of the week. Because we do that on Shabbat, we honor the idea of Shabbat, that if God saw fit to work for 6 days and make the work of the seventh day be rest, it's not a passive. It's not, oh, you don't have to think about it on Shabbat. On Shabbat, you do, but you put the work is the work of peace. The work is a work of rest. It's not that there's not work. So we don't do it in the way we would. We're not going to have a lively political discussion during Torah study. 1 week, I don't think you were here, but I think people kind of grumbled and said, but it's so on our hearts. We have to have this forum to talk about these things. I couldn't agree more. So we let it happen. To me, it felt very unsatisfactory. All of us are not relegated to having our relationship be only on Saturday morning, but on Saturday, we honor that God saw fit in all of the wonderful ability to keep creating, to say, but creating rest is just as important as all the rest. If you don't create the opportunity to rest, you can't enjoy the fruits of the rest of the labor. So especially on Shabbat, these words, I can't not read them without thinking of the world that we're in and everything we've been bombarded with, for the last couple of weeks and still are. But I look at it through a different set of eyes, and it gives me the energy to look at it for the rest, when the week starts again. It's a regroup.
And I'm looking at this in reference to God's commandment, and only in terms of discussing what our responsibilities are. And, I see no shame or no disagreement with you on how to honor the Shabbat in that way, but it kind of goes with interpreting the Torah and what the intentions are and how we should lead our lives. And I just feel really strongly to reinforce that as part of our community and part of our group. And if people disagree with me, great. Call me up. Let's talk about
I
it.
couldn't agree with you more, Arnie. I'm saying I couldn't agree with you more. If you talk to me on a weekday, you will find that I have a very different energy. And I couldn't agree with you more. But on Shabbat, the joy is to hear, for me, to hear this specific thing that you're saying. This aha. What are we doing this all for? What's the lema'an? What are we doing it for? Are we doing it so that we and the people who look like us and speak the language we speak, or who dress like us, all get the goods of the world? Is that why we're doing it? Clearly not. I think the words are pretty clear there, but on Shabbat, we talk in a different way. We're not a different person. We just say Shabbat is a commandment. It doesn't tell us that we have to do it the one orthodox way that someone might tell you. You're doing it wrong if you're not doing it this way. But in any way that we say Shabbat is a different day, that's a way to do it. We're not different people. And the woes of the world are not lifted from us. They are just put in a place where we can regroup and gather our energy for the work to be done. That's how I see it. So I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying it differently. Who has their, Joel, you have your hand up.
Well, on that note, and I'm new to the community and not aware of any committees that might exist, but on that note, I do want to give a blessing to all the Jewish people on this side to build more chevra and more connections during the week to fulfill these mitzvot. I nominate Arnie or whoever wants to be like the head of the Chesed committee, and I do want to really participate. And I also appreciate, Aviva, you want to hold the Shabbat energy, and that's very beautiful. I do hope that the seeds will grow that were planted in this parsha for the benefit of all the chevra on this island.
And Arnie, you're living your words by, you agreed and chose to join the board of Kona Beit Shalom. So you are living these words.
And I'd just like to say to anybody who wants to contact me and further discuss what we can do positively and constructively, to give me a call. I'll put my email address in the text.
I really appreciate what you're saying, Arnie, and I, for one, feel like we should have an open space where, I'm in Arizona, and there's a lot going on here, believe me. And I would really appreciate having an open communication, a space where we can all communicate about how we're going to bring this into the world that we're living in and what we're talking about today. So yeah, if you don't mind, I would give you a call and happily participate in that.
And I'm seeing something that may come out of this, which would be, we're all looking for ways to experience our Judaism in a real way. And
Right.
Arnie, why don't you think about some sort of way that we do actually get together? I mean, with a miracle of technology, we don't have to be present in one geographical space, as we can see clearly. And maybe as part of our, further Jewish learning, I could see a group forming to
Yeah. Yeah.
to have that forum, because I really appreciate that, Sarah. You know, we live here in Hawaii, and we have so many people that we can talk to, and we have an echo chamber if we choose to join it. It's very easy. We live in Hawaii, you know. We came here from Kentucky, so I know exactly what you're talking about, where you just want to have a part of your life to freely speak the things that are on your heart and the wrongs that you see in the world in real time. And I do appreciate that. But I don't know if the one time we did do it about 3 or 4, maybe 5
We
weeks.
did, right. And I totally get why maybe it would be better to have because not much really came from it except a lot of discussion and
Right.
argument and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it might be a good idea to keep Torah study on Shabbat, just Torah study on Shabbat. But I also would like a space where I can vent and discuss and maybe have other people give me some advice or a different way to look at things. Yeah, I think it would be a great idea, and I'm glad you brought it up, Ernie.
Wonderful. I see something forming that I'm going to be so happy to participate in.
Right.
Me
And we
too.
can do a Zoom on that. if you want.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to point out that Rabbi Sacks's chapter heading in this wonderful book, Judaism's Life-Changing Ideas, which is an essay on each parasha. His chapter heading for this one is "The World is Waiting for You." Isn't that perfect?
Mhm.
Does anyone have things they want to add to this parasha?
I would just add that, and this kind of relates to what Joel said, and also what I found in looking for the art that I introduced today, that we've moved to an optimistic view, to a more positive view. We had a couple of weeks ago, we had these horrendous images that we were presented with, and that left you shaken just reading them, and only imagine what the perspective might have been by people hearing that from their leader at the when the words were first spoken, if we want to put that image in play. But this is now it is saying you'll perish if you don't follow these commandments, but it's not saying how gruesome it's going to be the way it did. It leaves the leans toward the positive aspects, and maybe this is part of what Moses is leading to.
Yeah.
Is that we can't dwell on those terrible things. We have to make good things happen.
And if you think of, I mean, I've been lucky to know a number of people significant in my life who've lived a very long life. And I think that that's the lesson that I am learning. I see it very clearly. The past is not a place we go to.
Mhm.
Answers to the problems of today do not lie in going back, but the past is there to hold us up, to give us the strength to face the future. And I can't say it in many different ways. I mean, my joy of watching two women of the same generation who knew nothing about each other's culture sit here in my house and have little conversations. My own mother and Lily Tokuda, who lived the life of an American Japanese with all of what it entails, things that are now being erased from our history. They were real, and those women did not live a life of bitterness. They lived a joyful, positive life. To me, that's, I don't need any more than that. I don't need to expand on that idea anymore. We don't go back to the past to correct wrongs because we don't have that ability. But can we conjure up images of how terrible life can be / is when we go to those basic things and we know are right and we go against them? wrong. That's why I think this parasha really matches with the next one. And I wanted to leave a couple minutes for that, but I wanted to let Joel, if I don't know if we want to do a whole big long thing, but if you want to briefly talk about what the connection of the haftarah to the parasha, I personally would love to hear it if everybody else would be interested. Any interest in that?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay.
brief.
Oh, here's my moment of shame. So I wasn't such a good Jew this week. I didn't actually study it. I was just going to invite us to explore it. And normally even Alav Shalom, I listen to Rabbi Beryl Wine, who often draws the connection, but I'm not prepared. I just sort of spontaneously didn't want the group to end. So I was.
Okay, but there is an art to the matching of the haftarot to the parashot, and actually Yehuda and I discuss this sometimes, that maybe after 6 years of doing this, maybe it's something we delve into. I personally don't know how to do it. I'd have to kind of get some guidelines and classes. So we've been exploring how to educate ourselves so we can maybe add that to our study. Because I think, to me, haftarot are very difficult to read, especially as a Hebrew speaker. I will say that when I read a haftarah, I have to look at the English as well, because I don't really understand the poetry of them, and they are very poetic. Okay, David Jackson's leaving too. Okay, so
I would just, in your reference to the past, I just there's a quote from a ragtime a musicologist whose work I've enjoyed over the years, Max Morath, who would do a performance dressed like somebody from the ragtime era and play very authentic renditions of ragtime music and talk about the past. But he always would say, the past is a great place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there.
That's right. That's right. And in our lifetime, we have the opportunity to make sure we don't live there. That's the human element. That's where we fit in, right? So, but with all these reminders all along, as Jews, we cannot forget that if we only want to better the world for us and those who look like us and those who share our legacy, you will surely perish. And why can we see it? I mean, not only do we have war with people who are not like us, but we have wars inside our own homes about disagreeing about what this all means, right? So can we just open our eyes? We look at today and we say, maybe we're not in an existential threat immediately. Maybe we're not thinking our life may end right now or tomorrow because somebody is out to kill us. But we have moved so far from the rhythm of what it means to understand these words that we are in that kind of a danger. And that's what Parashat Vayelech, I just want to say the one sentence in there that ties this together for me is the reminder that there have been reminders all along that we are to gather periodically to have all these words read out loud to us as a community in plural. It's not enough to sit and read them alone at home. So that's all I'm going to say about Vayelech. But, that we're going to read that parasha during Shabbat Shuvah next week. And I hope, I'll talk to the rabbi. If he's not going to address these concepts, I may ask to speak a little bit about the lines that we are reading from Torah next week. So I'll kind of save it for next week. But they really do come together. There's a concept that not only you know this because you're reminded of your history, you know this because you are now about to enter a place that you could ruin if you don't take all the words of this Torah, but also a reminder that the community needs to hear it together. And I want to point out, one of the things that we listened to today pointed very clearly to this idea that in other places, we have this idea of a communal reminder. And in our country, in the United States, that has traditionally been the inaugural address. Every 4 years, people gather, they sit in front of their televisions, and they hear the words of inspiration. Guess where most of them came from?
Mm-hmm.
The book of Deuteronomy. Is that a surprise? No, because some of the great speechwriters, okay, we know the history, but it's no surprise. And where has that chain the recent chain of multiple generations been broken? And when? The words of inspiration during the inaugural address bring us together to a public reminder. And that is a missed opportunity if that doesn't happen. And we shall surely perish if we listen to those words. Because brother will be fighting brother. And that's happening. So go ahead, Joel. No, Joel?
Yes. So it is beautiful. The Isaiah, I was reading it in the last few minutes. It begins chapter 61, verse 10, but really starting at the beginning of chapter 61. And it's the last of the 7 haftorahs of consolation. And it's just really, the theme is like, you're going to get across the finish line if you follow these mitzvot. And it's beautiful writing. And I guess if anyone does want to go through it, I just pull it up. And whenever you want a Aviva segue to that, I still re-offer that, even though I haven't fully studied it. But just say
Does everyone feel that do people want to do that? I'm game. But not, I mean, if nobody wants to, if anybody doesn't want to, we won't, but I'm game.
Well, I mean, they could just leave too. I mean, it's going to close anyway.
I'm game, but we have to. We only, we have till like 6:45 or so, I guess.
Joel, do you
Or
want
for me anyway, another hour?
Sure, I'll post the link here. At least I'm pulling it off Chabad. I hope nobody minds that. It's with the Rashi in English on one side, Hebrew on the other.
As long as it's got the Hebrew, I got no problem.
Okay, here it comes.
Yeah, thank you.
What are we looking at? Are we looking at Isaiah or are we looking at the Haftorah?
He's the Haftarah is Isaiah, but you're actually
Isaiah 6. Yeah.
He's starting earlier. This Haftarah starts, I believe, in line 10 or something, but he's taking us back to the first line.
Yeah, 61:10. I see. Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking at it in my Chumash.
Oh. Okay, so if you read, I'll follow in the Hebrew, and if I find something completely ununderstandable, I might call you on it.
Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim pratza b'divreihem למען באמת. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah Moshe avado Yisrael amo b'amet b'tzedek. So justice and righteousness, may we all be blessed. The Spirit of the Lord was upon me, not me, Isaiah, since the Lord anointed Isaiah to bring tidings to the humble. He sent us to bind up the brokenhearted, to declare freedom for the captives, and for the prisoners to free from captivity. Aviva, do you notice anything you want to share there?
No, just read. That's fine.
So Rashi comments that to declare freedom for the captives is to bring them the tidings of redemption. So the hope that's been kept alive for the hostages over the last 2 years, the strength that the families have, may their prayers be answered. To declare a year of acceptance for the Lord and a day of vengeance for our God, to console all mourners. Is it vengeance in Hebrew also?
Sorry, I closed it. I was doing something.
Oh.
We should
so with so much
captives that we have a government right now that is an active creating captives across the country. There's some 59,000 people who are incarcerated as of about a week ago, no telling how many there are right now, who have been incarcerated just being American citizens.
Well, let's hold all of the captives of humanity in our hearts.
What line are you on right now?
Just finished 2.
Okay.
But I'll read it again. To declare a year of acceptance, likro shanat ratzon l'Adonai, for the Lord, and a day of vengeance for our God, and to console all mourners. Lenachem kol avilem. So all who are in mourning be consoled. I can't really see if hands are up, Aviva. So if anybody's hand comes up,
Yeah, I can't do both. So I either have the text or so people just.
I'll let you know if hands go up.
Okay. Lashum lavele, to place for the mourners of Zion, to give them glory instead of ashes, oil of joy instead of mourning, a mantle of praise instead of a feeble spirit, and they shall be called the elms of righteousness. Ale hatzedek, the planting of the Lord with which to glory. So very strengthening words.
Okay.
And they shall build the ruins of the old and desolations of the first ones. They shall erect and they shall renew ruined cities, desolations of all generations. So I'm always just struck at, the path, that the thought that Kamala didn't finish, the passage of time. But it is true. I mean, always keeping things in perspective. Yeshayahu is looking at the centuries and centuries of the first temple, hearkening back to Moshe. And just as now, we look back across time. And while we can't undo the desolations of the past, we can draw on the strength of the previous generations. And just as they erected certain ruins, we can also. And strangers shall stand and pasture your sheep, and foreigners shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. Well, this is controversial, isn't it?
So if we go line by line, the problem with haftarot is the words of the prophets are meant to discomfit us, and reading them as truths is problematic for me. And so, we haven't even gotten to the lines that are this week's. I know you're going back to the beginning, reading from line 1, but there's a pairing, a traditional pairing of haftarot to Torah readings, and reading the haftarah separately, it is very easy to see the direct line where people have justified unjustifiable actions based on these words. And that's why I want to be more careful. I thought you were going to do something a little bit different. I wouldn't choose Chabad as my way of reading to the public, but that's fine. I mean, we all are grown-ups here, but I do want to just do this caveat that the words of the prophets are not meant to be spoken to us as truths. They are meant to keep us uncomfortable and on our toes. The words of the prophets are not, they're not the normal ways that we communicate. They are often dire warnings, and they are meant to be controversial to us, to our ears, not to be accepted as truths. So I just, I can't not say that since we've delved into this territory. So with that, if people don't object, go ahead.
I would say also they're certainly not, I don't ever get the sense they're written to be taken as literally as we might take some passages in the 5 books. So it's
well, literally
for extra attention.
Literally does not even literally cannot accompany a lot of it becomes problematic. Okay, so I'm gonna not say anything anymore, and I see Vic has picked up a text, so maybe he's gonna have things to add. So go ahead, Joel. Oop, Joel is frozen. And he just dropped off. I hope I didn't offend him.
I can read, I have Alter and I can read that. Where do you stop at 9?
No, he didn't even get to 9. He was still on line 2 or 3, and 10 is where we start.
Should I start at 10?
Yeah.
Yes, I prefer you start at 10 because there's a pairing, and let's honor that.
Okay. I shall greatly rejoice in the Lord, my very being exult in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of triumph, has wrapped me with victory's cloak, as a bridegroom dons, priest-like a turban, and as a bride is adorned in fine clothes. For as the earth brings forth its growth and a garden makes its plants flourish, so shall the Lord make a victory flourish and praise before all the nations. That's the end of the chapter. Shall I go to the next chapter?
Yeah, well, so this goes, it's actually not that short, but just so we get the flavor of it, why don't you read the next like 5 lines?
Okay. For Zion's sake, I will not be still, and for Jerusalem's sake, I will not be quiet, till her triumph emerges like radiance, and her deliverance burns like a torch, and nations see your triumph, and all kings your glory. And you shall be called a new name that the mouth of the Lord shall fix. And you shall become a crown of splendor in the hand of the Lord, and a regal diadem in the palm of your God. No more shall be said of you forsaken, and of your land no more be said desolation. For you shall be called, my delight is in her, and your land the one bedded, for the Lord delights in you, and your land shall be bedded. As a young man beds a virgin, your sons shall bed you, and a bridegroom's rejoicing over the bride shall your God rejoice over you. Shall I continue?
No, actually, I meant to stop at line 4, because reading Haftarot is there's a complexity. I'm not prepared for it, but they're often, they delve into even just the syntax is poetic, so literalism doesn't even belong in the way the structure of the language is. So I feel like, I hope I didn't cause Joel to drop off there. I don't know what's going on, but you and I have discussed this. We would love to read these. I do not understand them. I feel like it'd be lovely to delve into something difficult now that we've, been willing to do that for a number of years. But the images invoked are both like, so let's think about where prophets fit in. Prophets are the ones chosen to speak the words of warning. So their words are going to be words of like wrath and burning and warnings and death and destruction, but they can also be positive. And when reading the positive, that's where I feel like the politics of it gets a little difficult, because there are interpretations that say, these things belong to you. These things I have given you. These whatever, right? And they cause misunderstanding, or they cause I'm not going to say misunderstanding. They cause justification for actions that seem in contrast to our understanding of reading Torah. That's the problem I have.
This sounds to me like after the redemption, to me. This whole section sounds like a Mashiach kind of thing. Like the holy people, the redeemed of Hashem, and you shall be called sought after, city not forsaken.
Yeah.
I will not give your grain any longer as food for your enemies. Alien son shall not drink your wine. I mean, it just sounds more like the prophecy of things to come rather than how things are now, because everybody's still in exile. Not everybody, but most Jews are still in exile. There's definitely war. And I don't know. It just sounds more futuristic to me.
Well, I'm going to call on Marilyn, but I just want to say this specific Haftarah is one of the last ones of the words of consolation, which start with Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, comfort, in the words of Handel and the Messiah, comfort ye, my people, right? That's been co-opted, but there is words of comfort. So prophets do 2 things at once. They give dire warnings and they offer the hope, the comfort. Marilyn has her hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one of our prophets, Paul Simon, refers to the prophets when he says, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls.
And on the neon signs.
And then, go on. I can't remember all the words.
Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely, a call to here it is. It's right here, right in the where we walk, where we live, We can't say we didn't see it. And it's reaching out to the common people, to us, to everybody who uses the subway, lives in the city high rises, etc. It's for today.
Like it says here, say unto the daughter Zion, behold, your salvation has come. Behold, his recompense is with him and his wages before him. I don't know. It just sounds very futuristic to me. Like it doesn't sound like now. I mean, I guess you could, but like Marilyn said.
Wait, excuse me, just in general, when we think of the prophets, they are trying to foresee
Yeah.
based on the behavior of the people, what's going to. My problem, Joel, we're glad you're back. We're almost afraid maybe we hurt your feelings for some reason. I'm
Also,
sorry.
I
Just want to
think
say
that-
Not at all, not at all, not at all.
Matan, I just want to say, Matan, because of your background, it's hard to see that your hand is up, but finish what you're saying, Ruthel, and then Matan does have
okay,
his
okay.
hand up.
It's hard for me because I'm not that much of a scholar. They put it, there's supposed to be links with the Torah portion and why they assigned a certain, which I'm not familiar with, but then the way I would want to read this, I'd have to really start with the historical context of what was happening to the children of Israel at the time that this was happening, because that puts kind of a spin on how you would most likely interpret his allegorical and symbolic pronouncements here, so you almost have to do it on two levels, like chronologically, like it's part of the history, and then I guess it could be in a more spiritual, more esoteric way to associate it with what's going on in the parsha we just read. And I'm still not sure where the link was, except to the degree that Alan had it in one of the art pieces, something about the crown, I think. Anyway, that's I just had to throw that in at the beginning since we just started doing this.
So Matan, and then Joel made it back.
The link I see is with the blessings that we read in the Parsha, where he talks about you shall gather your crops in your season and all that sort of thing.
All right.
I like the quotation by one of my favorite prophets, Paul Simon.
That's what I.
The words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls and whispered in the sound of silence. I was blessed in April to see Paul Simon at the Paramount in Denver. And boy, does that song sit hard, because fascism, which we are all thinking about and dealing with, is all about the sounds of silence. Silence like a cancer grows. And I mean, the words, hear my words that I might teach you. I think Paul Simon's a very deep Jew, and I would commend on all of you his 7 Psalms, the last song he's written and recorded. It's about 32 minutes long, but it's in the style of Psalms. And I did write an article about it, which I'll send along, because when you start talking about Paul Simon, I think he's one of America's best.
Yes, and thank you. And that sound of silence is also, we know that, Kol Dmama Daka, the unique small sound of silence. Okay, so continue. I'm going to take us off live streaming, and conversation can continue. How do I do